The diner was alive with the usual Friday night buzz, clinking glasses, the scent of sizzling burgers, and the low hum of conversation. But tonight our table carried a different weight. Bill Chapman, a retired Marine like the rest of us, had just finished telling us about his wife's betrayal. Not something recent, but a wound that had festered for decades. Without him knowing, the revelation had left him shaken, questioning everything he thought he had built. 25 years, a Bill muttered, staring into his drink, and all this time, I never knew the others murmured their sympathies. But I remained silent, not because I didn't care, but because I knew that kind of pain too well. Betrayal had shaped my life, but no one at this table knew my story. I had come to this town more than a decade ago, picking it at random from a map, determined to disappear. I'd bought a small grocery store, expanded it, and later added a gas station. Business was good, but more than that, it kept me occupied. The town itself was a forgotten relic of the past, a former logging community with just over 1,000 residents. The nearest city was a long drive away, and that suited me just fine. Over the years, I had become part of the fabric of the town. My Marine buddies helped me build a timber home. On a quiet patch of land, they joked about my aversion to relationships, my refusal to date, my reluctance to share stories of my past. Some assumed I was just a lifelong bachelor. Others whispered that I was hiding something. They weren't wrong. That Friday night after we finished our drinks, we parted ways. But Bill had something big coming up, a celebration for his son Steven. He was returning home from college, bringing his fiancée with him. There was going to be a barbecue that weekend to celebrate both his graduation and engagement. We were all invited. I almost didn't go. The wives of my friends had made it their mission to fix my solitude. Every gathering turned into a matchmaking attempt, and I was growing tired of it, but fate had other plans. I arrived last, parking my old 1940 Ford. Near the backyard, I'd barely stepped out before Bill's wife, Connie, caught sight of me. "You need to meet Steven's fiancée," she said, an odd look in her eyes. I was already preparing my usual excuse when she cut me off. "She has red hair," Connie added, hesitating. "I mention that because every time you see a redhead, you get quiet, distant, sad." Her words struck a nerve, but I didn't let it show. "You never talk about your past." She continued, patting my shoulder, "But I've always wondered, did a redhead break your heart?" I forced a tight smile, took a beer, and walked into the backyard. The barbecue was in full swing. Kids, laughing, music, playing, the scent of grilled ribs in the air. But the world blurred when Steven called my name. "Hey, come meet Jennifer." At the sound of her name, I froze the moment she turned. My breath caught in my throat. It was like looking at a ghost. The same fiery red hair, the same bright, intelligent eyes, the same smile. Jennifer was one of 3 identical triplets, and the last time I'd seen her, she was 7 years old. The last time I had seen her mother, she was in bed with my brother. Jennifer's eyes widened in shock. Tears welled instantly. "Oh my God," she whispered, rushing toward me. "I don't believe it." Before I could react, she threw herself into my arms. "You're alive," Jennifer choked out. I knew it, no matter how much they tried to convince me. I never accepted it. The backyard fell into complete silence. Every single person turned to stare. Bill's face twisted in confusion. Stephen looked stunned, but I barely noticed 15 years. 15 years since I had last held my daughter. The truth begins to unravel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Stephen was the first to speak. "How do you know, Charlie?" he asked Jennifer, his voice laced with confusion. Jennifer pulled back just enough to look at him, because his real name is Jonathan Charles Barnes. She said, her voice shaking, "He is my father." The weight of her words hit the crowd like a bombshell. Connie staggered backward, covering her mouth. "They told us," Jennifer's voice cracked. "They told us she couldn't finish." "But I already knew they told you I was dead," I said softly. Jennifer's lower lip trembled. "They said you couldn't handle the financial pressures." She whispered that she swallowed hard. unable to say the word, but I always suspected something wasn't right. Jennifer continued, every time we asked about you. Uncle James, she spat the name like poison, would go silent. And he only did that when he was hiding something. I looked around, seeing shock, disbelief, and horror on every face. It was time to tell the truth. My family erased me to cover up their lies. I said, my voice steady but raw. Their reputation mattered more than the hard truth. I scanned the faces pausing on Connie, who averted her eyes. They needed to hear this. One day I came home early after dropping my daughters off at school. I continued, I had forgotten my briefcase. I took a breath, and when I walked into my bedroom, I found my older brother in bed with my wife. The silence was deafening. They didn't even notice me at first. I said, my fists clenching at the memory I recorded everything before confronting them. And do you know what they did? I let the words sink in. They laughed in my face. A scandal that had to be buried. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some looked physically ill at what they were hearing. Jennifer held on to me tightly, her fingers gripping my arm. I was devastated, I admitted, but I had proof. I took the footage to my grandfather, the judge. People shifted uncomfortably. He watched the video, and you know what he did? I'd let the moment stretch, feeling the weight of their attention. He decided the scandal had to be buried. Someone gasped. My brother, the golden boy, was being groomed for a political career. I continued marrying a widow with 3 daughters, would bolster his image, and I exhaled sharply. I was the inconvenience. Jennifer's grip tightened. For 15 years. They had erased me, but now the truth was finally coming out. The weight of the truth hung heavy in the air. The backyard gathering had turned into something else entirely. A moment of reckoning. Years in the making. My daughter Jennifer had recognized me instantly. The shock in her eyes mirrored the disbelief on the faces of everyone else. Bill, my old friend, was staring at me like I was a ghost. His wife Connie had turned pale, her hands covering her mouth. Stephen, the man engaged to my daughter, looked like he had just watched his world shift beneath him. But none of that mattered, because standing in front of me, gripping my arm, as if afraid I would vanish again, was my daughter, my God. She whispered, tears streaming down her face. They told us you were dead. I swallowed the lump in my throat, trying to steady my voice. I know. Jennifer let out a choked SOB, shaking her head. How could they do that? The answer wasn't simple. It wasn't a single betrayal. It was an entire web of deception, built by the people I had trusted the most. And now, after 15 years, it was time to unravel it. Stephen finally found his voice. Jennifer, what do you mean? What's going on? She turned to him, her hands still clutching my wrist. Stephen, this is my father. My real father. Stephen's face twisted in confusion. But that's not possible. Your father is alive, Jennifer interrupted firmly, and he's standing right in front of us. Murmurs spread through the gathering people, exchanged uncertain glances, unsure whether they should intervene or step away. I knew this moment wasn't just about me. It was about Jennifer, about my other daughters, about the family I'd lost. Jennifer, I said gently, where are your sisters? Her breath hitched, and she wiped at her tears. Judy and Joanne, they're in the city, but they need to know you're alive. I nodded. Then we tell them. But before anything else could be said, Bill stepped forward, his face grim. Charlie, no. Jonathan, what the hell's going on? I turned to him, the truth that was buried, and I was finally ready to tell it. We moved inside the house, away from the prying eyes of the stunned guests. Bill, Connie, Stephen, Jennifer, and a few close friends gathered in the living room, waiting for an explanation. I looked at Jennifer, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath. I began 15 years ago. I had a family, a wife, 3 daughters, a career. I wasn't perfect, but I did my best to provide for them. Then, one day, everything changed. I clenched my fists at the memory. I walked into my home and found my wife in bed with my brother James. Gasps rippled through the room, but I pushed forward. I had proof. I confronted them, thinking justice would be on my side. I let out a bitter laugh, but I underestimated how deep their betrayal ran. Jennifer was holding onto my arm, her fingers digging into my sleeve. Mom told us you left because you couldn't handle the pressure that you ran away. I exhaled sharply. That was their lie. The truth was, they erased me. I looked directly at Bill, who still seemed to be processing everything. My grandfather. A powerful judge decided that I was the problem, that the scandal would ruin the family name. So they destroyed my reputation. They froze. My accounts spread false stories and made sure I had no way to fight back. But faking your death, Connie whispered, that's insane. Not officially, I corrected. They didn't need a death certificate. They just made sure I disappeared. Every record of me was wiped. My job was given to someone else. My bank accounts were emptied. My house was sold without my consent. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. I met Jennifer's gaze, and worst of all, they turned my daughters against me. Her lip trembled. I never believed it. Dad, not really. When they told us you were gone, something inside me never accepted it. I put a hand on hers. That's why I survived. Because deep down, I knew one day the truth would come out. Stephen, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke. If all of this is true, then what now? A slow determination built inside me. Now I take back what was stolen from me over the next few hours. I told Jennifer everything about the years I spent trying to rebuild my life. The pain of knowing my daughters were growing up without me. The rage that had nearly consumed me. But the time for silent suffering was over. The next morning, Jennifer and I sat together making phone calls. The first was to her sisters, when Judy and Joan answered. Their reactions mirrored Jennifer's shocked disbelief tears. We agreed to meet in person to finally have the reunion that had been stolen from us. But there was something else I needed to do. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I had memorized long ago. When the line connected, a familiar voice answered. Jonathan. The voice said cautiously, "Hello, James." I replied, my voice ice cold, a sharp intake of breath, then a forced chuckle. "I was wondering when you'd finally crawl out of whatever hole you've been hiding in." "You always did underestimate me," I said, "but not anymore." "James, sigh, look. Whatever you think you're doing, you took my family, my name, my life." I cut him off, but that's over now. The truth is coming out, and this time, there's nothing you can do to stop it. A long silence stretched between us. Then James spoke, his voice laced with barely concealed anger. "You have no idea what you're starting." I smiled. "Oh, but I do." I ended the call and turned to Jennifer. "Are you ready?" I asked. She nodded. "Let make them pay, because this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, and we were only getting started." The weight of the past pressed down on me as I sat across from my daughter Jennifer. The first steps toward reclaiming my life had already begun. I had reunited with her. I had spoken to her sisters, and I had confronted my brother James for the first time in 15 years. But there was still one more person I needed to face: my ex-wife Linda, the woman who had once vowed to stand by my side, only to betray me in the most unimaginable way. A meeting 15 years in the making. Jennifer insisted on coming with me. "You shouldn't have to face her alone," she said firmly. I didn't argue. I had already lost too much time with my children. I wouldn't push them away. Now we arranged the meeting at a small cafe in the city, agreed almost too easily, as if she was confident that nothing I said could shake the life she had built that would change soon. When she arrived, she was just as I remembered: poised, elegant, wearing the same calculating expression she always had when she was trying to stay in control. But when her eyes landed on me, something flickered in them. Shock, fear. Maybe both, Jonathan, she said smoothly. Slipping into the seat across from me, I have to say, I wasn't expecting to ever see you again. Jennifer sat beside me, her arms crossed. That's because you made sure of it. Linda sighed as if she were the victim in all of this. I don't know what stories he's been telling you, Jennifer, but you have to understand enough. I cut her off. We both know exactly what happened. You and James planned everything. You took my life, my family, and convinced my daughters that I was gone. A flash of annoyance crossed her face. I did what I had to do for our children. For our children, I repeated, my voice sharp. You tore their father away from them. You let them believe I was dead. You don't get to pretend this was about them. Jennifer leaned forward, her voice shaking with emotion. You lied to us, Mom. You told us he abandoned us, that he didn't care, but it was you who took him away. Linda pressed her lips together, but she didn't deny it. You always were good at rewriting the truth, I said bitterly. But that ends today. Linda exhaled, tapping her manicured nails on the table. What do you want, Jonathan? An apology, a second chance? Because neither of those things are going to happen. I smiled coldly. I don't want an apology. I want you to face the truth for once. Jennifer pulled out her phone and pressed a few buttons. A moment later, a recording began to play. James's voice filled the air. You have no idea what you're starting. You always did underestimate me, but not anymore. Linda's expression shifted. Where did you get that? I called him? I said simply, and I made sure to record every word he knows. The truth is coming out, and he's scared. Linda's mask finally cracked, her fingers clenched into fists. You don't understand the consequences of what you're doing, Jennifer scoffed. No, Mom. You don't understand the consequences of what you did. Linda's confidence wavered. Do you really think anyone will care? This happened 15 years ago. No one is going to come after me or James over something that old. I leaned back, letting her believe that for just a moment. Then I placed a folder on the table. Inside were documents, legal records, bank transactions forged, signatures, proof that my accounts had been emptied without my consent. These say, otherwise, I told her. And the people I've spoken to, they're very interested in justice for the first time. Linda looked genuinely afraid you wouldn't, she whispered. Jennifer's voice was steady. He doesn't have to, we will. Linda's hands shook as she stared at the papers. For 15 years she had been untouchable, but now the life she had built on lies was crumbling. Linda's hands trembled as she flipped through the documents I'd placed before her. The evidence was undeniable proof of fraud, forged signatures and financial records that directly implicated both her and James for years. They had built their lives on lies, erasing me from existence and making sure I could never return. But now everything was unraveling. Jennifer watched her mother closely, her expression unreadable. I could tell she was conflict-ed, caught between the love she had for the woman who raised her and the pain of the truth she had discovered. Linda finally looked up, her face pale. Where did you get all of this? I gave her a small, humorless smile. You thought you buried me, Linda, but you forgot. I spent 15 years waiting, watching. I had nothing but time. She scoffed, trying to regain some of her composure. This doesn't mean anything. No one is going to go after me for something that happened years ago. I leaned forward. Are you willing to bet your freedom on that? The moment Linda realized she no longer had control, her entire demeanor changed. She wasn't the composed, elegant woman I remembered. She was panicked, desperate. She turned to Jennifer, sweetheart. Please, you don't understand what this will do to our family. Jennifer's voice was cold. You did this to our family before Linda could respond. My phone vibrated. It was a message from my lawyer. It's done. The case has been filed. She'll be hearing from the authorities soon. I placed the phone on the table and met Linda's gaze. I suggest you get yourself a lawyer. Her face drained of color. Jonathan, please. But I was done listening to her lies. You made me disappear. Once. I said quietly. But this time, it's your turn. As much as Linda had orchestrated my downfall, she hadn't acted alone. James had been her accomplice, and I had no intention of letting him walk away unscathed. The next morning, the news broke. Financial crimes fraud and a history of falsified records. James and Linda were officially under investigation. It wasn't long before James called me. You set me up, he shouted through the phone. You think you can just walk back into our lives and ruin everything? I laughed bitterly. You ruined my life. James, I'm just returning the favor. You'll regret this, he snarled. I hung up. James had always been arrogant, thinking he was untouchable. But now the world knew the truth, and soon he would face justice with Linda and James out of the picture. My focus shifted to what truly mattered, my daughters. Jennifer stood by my side through everything but my other daughters. The ones who had grown up believing I abandoned them needed time. I understood that. So I waited days, turned into weeks, and one by one, my daughters reached out. They wanted to know the truth. They wanted to know me. It wasn't easy. The years apart had left deep scars, but for the first time in 15 years, I had hope I had a chance to be a father again. The last time I saw Linda was in the courtroom. She and James sat side by side, their perfect world shattered. She looked at me, her expression unreadable for a moment. I thought she might say something, a final attempt to justify what she had done. But she didn't. She just looked away. And that was the last time I ever saw her, as I walked out of the courthouse with Jennifer by my side. I took a deep breath. 15 years of pain, betrayal, and loss had led to this moment. I wasn't the man I used to be, but I was free. And for the first time in a long time, I was home.